We anticipated that there would be a lot of questions regarding financial aid, so that's why I'm kind of handout Hannah today. I have a lot of handouts in your file. They are connected with the clip. So if you'll go to that section, and on the top of it is our College of Business Academic Advising Philosophy. And it's safe to say that every college has this. The university has an overall statement. But what I want to just have you take a look at, because what I'm trying to cover is developing rapport with the student, being able to talk about the information you've learned so that the student's hearing it. And if you notice, students' responsibilities, they have a lot of responsibilities too. Sometimes advisors forget that it's a two-way street and that students do need to be responsible for knowing policy. They need to make sure that they're contacting you for appointments. They need to be able to really have discussed and thought about their own personal values, some of their goals, some of the things that they want to know. And they also have a responsibility to know how to register and to take a look at the class list and have some suggestions also. But as you see, faculty also have some very strong responsibilities, including knowing, understanding, helping them discuss their educational and academic needs. We need to know procedures. That's why Mike spent a lot of time this morning. Many of you know those things. Schedules, the academic plan that student has, it's all listed here. The one thing I want to suggest to everyone on earth is that if you don't have one, you're a new advisor, make sure you get a mentor. That's something the department should provide for you. Get a mentor. If you are seasoned and know everything, try and be a mentor to someone else. Very, very significant. In the research that we found, you can be nice, you can be wonderful, you can be the most famous person in your research, but if you don't need the information that student needs in order to succeed and graduate, they're not going to consider you a very good advisor. So one of the things that we took a look at, and we are going to be reissuing this year for the College of Business, is what we call the Faculty Advising Checklist. And we have a condensed version in your packet and also really a detailed version. I was told that some of our faculty are only going to look at one page. And you know, that's great if that's all they need. They only need a couple reminders. But most of us, this information, there is a lot of things out there that you need to know. My suggestion, if your department, if your college doesn't have one, make up your own advising list, checklist. And there's a lot of things on here. It has, for us, it has a lot to do with the College of Business. The reason we put these in here is because part of your assignment, for those of you that are working on travel money and the option of handing in an assignment, which we'll give to you later, part of it is to develop your own checklist. So please take a look at that. This is a work in progress. If you see any typos, let me know. If you want an electronic version of this, I'm glad to send it to you. My name is Sharon George, and College of Business, you can get a hold of me. I'll send you electronic versions of any of this information. I have a lot more handouts. The other thing that is, and I started talking to colleagues, because I'm rather new at Ferris, but I started talking to colleagues at other campuses. And the one thing, and this has been initiated in the College of Business and probably for most of your other colleges, an advising checklist for students. Now let's face it, if you're expecting them to know everything, at least provide the information so they can make sure and work with you. Make sure that they know this. I tried this with my FSUS class and they loved it. It's all the information they get in FSUS, and it's also the information that we're going through in orientation. So if I have any advice to you, please do a checklist. We are also going to develop a handbook in our college for that student. And like one of my friends said at another institution, she goes, you know, if advisors don't know all the information, your students are going to do what they can to know it themselves. So if they've got that handbook, the advisors use it also to go through the information. So please consider that. If there's any document in all of these that I've handed out, I want to acknowledge this booklet. This is produced by NACADA, which is the National Academic Advising Association. This is one of the institutions where you could get travel money from the university to go to these conferences. This thing is great, and it includes it's basically a summary of the information that we've passed out to you. One of the things I want to talk about, and for our friends in Grand Rapids, this will be coming to you hard copy. There is, they go through all kinds of information about philosophy, about standards, but one of the things that I love, and I'm working on this right now for my colleagues in the College of Business, is what is called an academic advising syllabus. In all honesty, this is what academic advising is about. It is a learning process for that student. It's just like you teaching a class in a sense. But it provides kind of an outline for a syllabus, and it's very similar to what you pass out in your classes already for your courses. There's information in here on what to talk about with your student. It really is an art, and I want to talk about a couple other areas in a second here if we have time. But it is an art to talking to students and trying to pull information out. As you know, because most of you have been doing it for a long, long time. There's advising tips on this, and we're going on 14 and 15. Again, it's not about us, it's about the student, which is one of the other thing that I, through the reading, through my colleagues, you can develop your own questions that you feel familiar with to talk to that student about. And one of the greatest questions that we all ask each other, what is your passion? And you really start out there, because in a sense, academic advising has like what I consider to have 5 stages. And this is the O'Banion theory on academic advising. You basically start out with the student by exploring what their life goals are. And that happens throughout college, that happens during orientation, that happens during FSUS, but it's something that the advisor might want to touch on. From there, you talk about career goals. And by the time the student probably gets to you, it's because they have an idea of what program they want to go into. So that's like the 3rd step. Program. You talk about program, you talk about course choice, and then you talk about registration. So basically, in a nutshell, that's the 5 different aspects of training, or excuse me, of academic advising. Another document that I'm wild about is entitled Advising Issues and Strategies. It's about 8 pages. We sent it out to our College of Business. I try to judge things from what I hear from them. I know it's long, but it really does touch on everything. Characteristics of an advisor on this is page 24. And this was a document that was put together by Noah Lovitz, I believe. From different colleges, okay? So it's got all kinds of suggestions on what you can do. Quickly, that has its own advisor checklist, but this is more about personal issues like, do I have, and this is one of the complaints we hear from students, if they're required to see you to lift a hold, you have to be available. And that's more than the 4 hours a week or whatever our contracts require, you have to be available. And I always suggest to our advisors, ask students to make appointments. That's hard for you, and it's hard for them, but you cannot be prepared to meet with a student when they just walk in. So that's personal advice. It goes down here, we're talking about specific hours, information, do I keep up to date? Am I getting the information? You can evaluate yourself. In a sense, this is your own checklist. On page 26 of this document, advising self-assessment, what is it that you're doing? It gives you some information on an interview. It's important how you approach that student. I think we forget how scared students are, especially when they're freshmen. We know, again, research, that a student retention has a great deal to do with that one connection that they have with an academic professor and or that advisor. You have a great deal of respect usually from students, but also in a sense we have a lot of responsibility as advisors. So that's important that we connect with them. There's a way of phrasing questions, and I don't think I need to go through that with you, but I've got tons of examples in this information if you have any questions about that. Some people and some students give us feedback that, I never even had a chance to ask a question because they were talking so much. Well, there's a lot of information we have to get in for them, but give them the chance to talk. cross-examining the number of things, helping them explore what it is they want. Sometimes we find, and we have found in some of our programs, that the student gets there, they're all excited about it, but after their first internship or after their first class, they find out, wow, this is not what I want to be able to do. So part of your skill is to be able to advise them out of the program too, but to help them, to encourage them, to refer them to other people that can help them through the career exploration process. We have a lot of programs on this campus. There is an art to referral. There's information also in here about what do we do with students that are troubled. Most of us as advisors are not trained counselors. We are not expected to do that. But you are expected to help refer them, talk to the educational counselor for your college, whatever it takes. But again, that skill of referral is very, very significant, especially here at Ferris. This handout also goes through things to watch out for if the student is having some trouble. There's usually very strong characteristics that our students demonstrate. We also talk about legal issues. Most of you, I know you are familiar with FERPA, Family Education, and I knew I was going to forget that. Does anybody know what FERPA stands for? Family Education.
Sure. What's the R?
That's what I tried. Regulation. I apologize. I feel like the presidential debate last night where you forget the real
Just
important.
Just
say oops. Oops. But FERPA is very important because it tells you the regulations about who you can and who you can't talk to. I also have included in here a guideline for entering advising comments on Banner. There is an art to that. You know, you don't say, hey, the student had a really crummy day today and was kind of out of it. You can't say things like that. You can say information that is going to be helpful to the next person looking at the comment section. Now, we, as Carla and Mike talked about, there's going to be some forms that we as advisors are going to have to fill out for students on financial or probation. Though in the College of Business, we are taking a look at, as other colleges are already doing, forms that can be filled out that we call proactive, that there's going to be a list that you're going to have in writing and that student's going to sign and say, okay, I know this is what my advisor recommended I take. It'll be in writing someplace. But there also is, I think, a decision that has to be made about the information that has to go in comments so everyone else has access to that. One of the other things that the research tells us and that we need to know, that you know as advisors, is that no matter what you tell a student, it is their responsibility to make a decision. You can warn them all you want to, but it is their decision. Sometimes that's hard. We have a handout in here about developmental academic advising. There are processes you can go through. This is all developmental theory. If you have time, I think you'd enjoy the article. And also advising academically underprepared students. Very, very important information because not all of our students are at the same place. Again, the thing that's significant is that you do know the services available at Ferris. With that, I think we have about 2 minutes for questions. Like I said, I had a whole lot of information for you. Most of you know it. If I could say anything again, get a mentor. The other thing we find, and I keep referring to research, but it's already proven, if you're warm, if you're supportive of that student, if you're positive, if you help them, if you've got a really bad message for them, like they're not going to make it in the program, there is a way of telling a student without completely making them feel like they'll never be able to go into anything else.
What we want to do with all of the sessions throughout the 2011-12 academic year is our recorded sessions will be online under the faculty tab of the academic advising guide. In fact, the September recorded session is there now. We'd like to put all these materials on there also, so that if you've already attended the session, you don't need to hear the recording again, but you'd really like that one handout that Sharon or Mike provided to you in a PDF or a Word document. So we're going to work real hard to do that as soon as we can.
And
great question.
I'm sorry, Deb. In higher ed, that's one thing that I have learned is whatever's been created, everyone likes to borrow, and it's acceptable. I have tried on these particular ones to at least acknowledge who I got the information from, but I also find out that they got the information from 10 other people also. So please, if you really do want to make that checklist, I'll send you an electronic version. Any questions for Mike or Carla or Deb or me? A lot of information, we know, but we sure appreciate your support. And there is an evaluation that we would appreciate your feedback.
Is that in the folder?
That is in the folder. That is the last portion.
And based on feedback also from the audience, is you wanted to know the responses to the deliverable questions, the homework. So we're going to also have that available on those monthly advising seminars that will be on the faculty portion of the academic advising guide. Thanks for coming today.